All right, we're on air. It is October 8th. This is our weekly development meeting. And this week, instead of going through our normal set of bug fix issues, we're very excited to work on potential issues for Backdrop 118. And before we get to that, let's go through everyone in the meeting and have you all introduce yourselves. Greg, would you like to go first?
Yep. Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Greece, usually in Australia, though. Interested in anything related to Backdrop and try to help however I can. Excited about this meeting. Tim, want to go next?
Hi, I'm Tim, St. Paul Tim, coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota. Possibly one of the last decent days I can come to outside. I had to put on both my backdrop and my bad camp sweatshirts to stay warm today. That's it. Luke, you're next.
I'm Luke McCormick. I'm in San Ramon, California, and it's a good day when I don't slow things down too much. Is that Jason?
Hi, I'm Jason from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a backend developer, and I'm here to see what's going on. Figure out what's going on with life. Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm also from Las Vegas, and I'm also a backend developer. And yeah, hopefully I can help fix some issues.
I'm Nate Lampton from Oakland, California, and I'm a core committer. And yeah, I'm excited to chat about our possibilities today. Jen, back to you.
I'm Jen Lampton, also calling from Oakland, California, and I am very excited about the future, in particular, what issues to work on for 118. We did also just admit Justin. I don't know if you'd like to introduce yourself, but we're at the end of our introduction period, so welcome.
Hi, I'm Justin. I've been doing server stuff a little bit for Backdrop, and just here for the meeting.
Thanks for joining. All right. This week, we have a ton of new contributed modules that appeared in the contrib group. So a lot of our current maintainers have been really busy, and we have a couple of new people who are contributing new module ports to Backdrop. In particular, Bug Folder, who recently got their contrib application approved, has been doing a lot of work. So special thanks to them. The modules we have this week that are new, oh geez, okay. Nate's adding who did each of them. Okay, we've got a whole bunch of them. UberCart mini cart block is something that Laren ported, so thank you, Laren. Views B grid, Herb dual ported, so thank you, Herb. Image maximum crop is BW Panda, so thank you, BW Panda. Spam San me or me aliases, node clone tab, and rules once per day were all by Bug Folder. Oh wait, and comment hide subject. So thank you, Bug Folder. And then term body class was by Olaf, and it looks like Civis Theorem cron was also from Laren. So a lot of our usual suspects, plus a ton from Bug Folder. So thank you everybody for being super active. Part of the reason that list is so long is because we did not have a meeting last week, so we skipped a handful, but there were so many in the last 2 weeks we had to talk about all of them, which is very exciting. Also, in the past few weeks, BW Panda has been doing a ton of work on backdropcms.org. I think in the last meeting, I said thank you to Peter for working on the forum. Was it the forum site? It was the API site. It was the API site because he's been working on the forum API page there. This week, he's been working on backdropcms.org. He's already made a massive improvement to our showcase site, which was looking a little bit funny depending on the size of screenshots that people were posting. We asked for designer feedback. We got a recommendation from the designer who originally designed the showcase page, and BW Panda has implemented it. So thank you to Darius for weighing in and for BW Panda for making the website match the recommended design. So
I think also for making the module space work.
Oh, that was me. Oh, I don't know. He improved that too. So yeah, there are a couple of different changes to the modules page. One of them was just an aesthetic change that I made after Greg and I watched the classic press demo. We saw how pretty their little module boxes looked. And I was like, oh, we could do that on our site. So I fixed the module boxes. And by switching that from using fields in the view to using a view mode, it made it much easier to make other changes. Like I think we'd been doing something weird with fields in the search thing where we were doing a combined field filter or something like that. And that was causing issues with search results. I don't remember why we decided to do that in the first place. So BW Panda fixed it by switching it back to using a search index. And now all the search results are coming out in the right order. Yay, teamwork. So I'm really glad to see those. I don't remember what the problem was with search in the first place. We searched the issue queue and couldn't find it. Should that come up again, we will address it in the future when that problem comes up again. So anyway, I think it's better than it was before. So yeah, fantastic work on all of that stuff. I think Nate just added this one too, that Let's Encrypt was set up by Justin on all of our backdropcms.org servers. And since that's been set up, one of our certificates has expired and our site is still online. Woohoo! Not the Let's Encrypt certificates, our old certificates that we're replacing expired. Just looks a little worried. But because we're using the new certificates, we didn't have to worry about it. So that was great. And then Nate says, are there any other updates from Justin on server stuff that we should know about?
I don't have anything else. I was thinking I'd just make maybe 6 months worth of tickets for monthly updates, like one per month, and then just knock those out. So I don't, maybe we should do it every month. I've been doing it every quarter, trying to remind myself. But
yeah,
maybe we
tickets
could
are
move
fine.
to once a month.
Sure, anything you feel like is going to help you in the issue queue, that's totally fine. Or if you wanted to make one and like update it every 6 months, or I don't know, whatever your process works for you is totally fine. Or 1
Yeah,
month.
sure, that's a good idea too. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could make 6 and then every month just make it 6 months in the future. However you want to do it. I'm getting way too creative. Okay.
Do we are we gonna need anything for the CV CRM?
So that's a good question. The current plan, and I'm not sure how near or far this is that Jack's company has a bunch of experience working with Civi CRM, and we did an initial consult on how we could use Civi for Backdrop, and they recommended that we install Civi on our current site so that we could leverage our current user table as a starting point for all of our consumers, or whatever is the C in CRM for us. And so that way it would make a better starting point rather than starting with a brand new empty site. But I don't know how much work is involved in bolting a new database onto an existing website like that, especially with Civi. I know there's like some install scripts that do a bunch of like copying and synchronizing and stuff. But the plan was to do that on a local site, get it ready, do it on a beta site, run a test, and then do it again on the production site. And so hopefully all that would be needed is a new database and then running whatever scripts are required in order to get that done. And they were going to work on the scripts in the development environment and test them, et cetera, so that it would be fairly straightforward to deploy. But we haven't made very much progress on that. And because I'm not involved in everything, the technical sides of everything, I asked him to take a look at what that would be, because I know he's really interested in working on the CRM angle of things. And maybe it's not as scary as it sounds to me. So Tim's going to do a little R&D on that and figure out what's necessary. And we will know more when he learns more as to whether that plan is still going to be our best course of action. But that's where we are currently.
If it's helpful, we can build like a virtual machine to kind of build this application as a team on. I don't know if that's in the works, but I thought maybe that's where I was going to go.
Well, the thing is, if it's connected to the backdrop.org site, it has to be on the same machine.
Well, not necessarily, because we can make like a development version of the backdrop.org
Right. Yes.
site on a different VM, so we don't have any accidents,
Yes. Yes. Agreed. I don't know. That might be helpful. I'm not really prepared to make any statements yet on what is or isn't helpful. That sounds like it could be though.
Just trying to push it along a little bit.
Yes. Thank you.
See if because if that was a blocker, we could do something like that.
Having that as an option, I think, knowing that I can just say, hey, Justin, let's try that, is helpful. And then I don't have to feel bad about that. So thank you. But I'm not sure if it makes sense yet. If anybody else does, they come up, let us know.
Okay. Let's move on to backdrop CMS core stuff. It says here Nate's in charge of that, but this is my list, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'll run through the things that we know for sure that we're doing, and that's actually down at the bottom of the agenda. But items that we have slated for 118 include MySQL 8 support. That's issue 4238. Still investigating if that's something that we can actually get in earlier. It's currently marked works for me, and more testing would be appreciated on that. But so far, we have all the tests passing. It seems to be working really pretty well. We also could merge it into 118 like right now, and then just have it in core for the next couple of months or something like that. And then if it turns out that we have encountered no problems with it over that time span, then we could possibly backport it into 117 a little sooner than the next release. Gregory, did you have anything you want to add on that? So you got unmuted.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that, like getting it sooner so that we can get more eyes. And there's going to be a bunch of us that are getting the most recent code base on their local to just test things. So we're going to have the opportunity for to test this thing and see if it breaks things with the current database. And then
Okay.
There were at least a bunch of people that are have been sort of like actively complaining about the lack of support. So we'll leave that testing for the actual MySQL 8 to them, I guess.
Huh, interesting. This person tested it, Earlyberg, whom I love their handle, and they tested the site on MySQL 8 and
Yeah, they saw regression in performance.
5.7. Yeah, and they got a regression in MySQL 8, which is interesting because it doesn't really matter if they're running the patched version on both of them. The code is the same for both of them. So I don't think that it's caused by core code, but interesting. It might just be configuration differences because MySQL configuration can really drastically affect your performance. Anyway, that's helpful. Thank you, Earlyberg, for doing that testing. It's appreciated. Okay, continuing on, WebP support is a new image format to replace JPEGs. Lauren is advocating for this issue in 4509. And status says that it currently needs review. There is also a small issue to add a new token for user accounts, that user accounts want to be able to have a link token that turns a link or turns the username token into a link to their profile page. So that's issue 4584, and that one is already marked RTBC. So those are the items that we have slated for 118 right now. And the rest of the time today, we're going to be talking about other things that we could potentially pursue in 118. And it's kind of going to be just an open, informal, like brainstorming session for issues that people are interested in. And Jen is the one that seems to be most excited about new features. So and has put a nice list here in the agenda. If anyone else has things, putting them in the agenda would be great. But should we give other people an opportunity first, Jen, or do you want to just go right into your list?
Yeah, so this list, I think I went through the milestone candidate tag, and I might have added a lot of milestone candidates to issues, like maybe more than everyone else. But that's because I see something and I'm like, oh, I really like this. But then when it comes time for me to actually choose which one to work on for our next milestone, there's so many things I really like, it's hard to know what the priorities should be. And so I put this list here because I was hoping that everybody else could help me control my enthusiasm. Some of these issues are user experience issues that require sort of a rework of the way things are already written. So for example, the manage fields UI, needs settings on pseudo fields. So does putting the title field onto the managed fields display. And so there's sort of a lot of change that's required in order to make those user experience changes. And so those issues kind of all go together. And then there's some that are big features that I think would be really killer for Backdrop to have as like a competitor to Drupal 8. And that's something big like adding cache tags, which we know can be done on Drupal 7 because there's a contributed module for it. And so in theory, it could be done on Backdrop too. And that could be something that I think people come and say, oh, Backdrop's like Drupal 7, but what about cache tags? And it would be really cool if we could say, oh, we have that, because it's one of the things that I think sets Drupal 8 apart. It also aligns with our philosophy in that making things faster is good for us. So yeah, there's just stuff like that. Then there's a bunch of other things here like that were determined by usage. So things like right now, our #1 contrib module is backup and migrate. So something like putting a modified version of that into core could be really good. Field group. So
yeah,
stuff like
with regards to backup and migrate, it's not only the usage of it. There's places that we urge people to just take a backup, like during the module update process, which instead of pointing them to documentation, we could just have a checkbox that says, "Yep, also take a backup for me." And I think we have an issue for that as well. So that would help.
And then there's a handful of other things in here that we've been talking about for a long time, like cleaning up the update process, improving.
That's my favorite.
Dollar.
I want to advocate for that. The next release. It's been there for like many years. I want to fix that.
And I think in particular, cleaning up the update process is also going to be beneficial for people coming from Drupal 7, because we now have this ability to manually update and maybe someday automatically update. And I'm hoping that more people are going to be using that in Backdrop. So spending some time to rethink how we handle reporting and the action of doing those things could be good too. Yeah, so project browser, multiple images, upgrade UI module. Does anyone have any thoughts on any of this stuff?
Do you have the add the image library to image fields as well?
We have that already.
Yep, cool.
In core, I mean.
Yep.
I'm excited about adding backup and migrate into core because that at least approximates to some extent WordPress's export and import site functionality, at least, some of it.
I'm also interested in that feature. I'm very interested in forward facing features that like a site builder would recognize and use. And I'm weak in like understanding what are the big behind the scenes features that we really need to fix and things. But anyways, so the backup and migrate, I like it, or something like it, because of its forward facing this and sort of, yeah. Field group functionality also seems like that would be a powerful feature in core. I've been browsing and have a few of my own ideas too now.
Yeah, Tim, I'll second what you just said there about things being forward facing. I think that they're generally better for our project to have these kinds of things that are end user accessible, and something like advanced cache tags. I get that that's like a developer concern, but it's really not something that would be a real seller for end users, I don't think. But I don't know. I'm not saying that we shouldn't put in cache tags, because I think they're awesome. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment of end user facing stuff could be preferable.
Well, my point is that's the stuff easiest for me to comment on, but sometimes I worry that I'm neglecting, because we do have to pay attention to those other back end things. And there's a certain group of decision makers that might, be really influenced by things like cache tags. And so I'm glad that we do have people in our community paying attention to those as well.
Sorry, Tim, you got muted.
I muted myself. I'll just list a couple of other things that are forward-facing things that I know I've wished for. Dismissible blocks or accordion blocks, config recipe. This is something I started to work on at one point. I have sort of a contrib module for, but the idea to sort of have features like functionality using config, I think would be helpful. We need to figure out what we need in core to make that more possible. Changing the full HTML to raw HTML is something we've been talking about for a while. I think we're close on at least a consensus on what to do. Just need to make it happen. Yeah, well, a starter kit and basis is, I don't think we have consensus on that, but it's an idea that has interested me. Basically something to make subtheming easier. And there might be a different solution, but anyways, those are my some of the things that I had to kind of skim through the future list to see some of the things that in the past have got me excited, because I'd forgotten some of these. Anybody else? I'd like to hear from other people, like what they'd like to see as new features.
Related to your recipes, config recipes, we have an issue for making it simple to export an entire content type with all of its peripheral stuff.
Sure.
In practice and in development, I've not actually found that to be something I run into frequently, but because for me, I just export the whole site. And then honestly, that seems to be what I want almost all of the time. So that turned out to not be as important as I had once thought. But config recipes could be a better alternative to that, honestly.
Well, or it could be the same thing too.
Sure. Another related to backup and migrate and config is that I keep finding it odd that there isn't, like when I'm backing up, backup and migrate has database files and code, but well, there's a separate config export feature, but I've been trying to figure out, like, if I'm backing up my site now, I don't know what I'm saying, except that even though there's that config back export feature, in practice, I'm afraid that I'm oftentimes not backing up my config, and figuring out a better way to do that. Anybody else?
I had a question a second ago based on what Nate said, but then I forgot what it was. You had said that it was config update that there was a phrase that really jumped out.
I use config recipes.
Recipes, that's it.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Is that a proposal or an existing thing? Because that,
Yeah.
I like the sound of that, config recipes.
Yeah, there's an old issue about it. I'll share the thing. I'll find it and share it with you. We called it recipes in lack of any better.
Well,
name
it's
than
already in the
recipes.
agenda. I already had it there.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
Second page.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Let me throw out sort of like a blue sky thing, and it's just this vague idea of something that I've always wanted in Drupal and dream about having backdrop. So let me sort of describe it, which is that when you fire up backdrop like Drupal, there's this out of the box, there's this very full featured thing that does nothing, right? Like it's ready for you to build things on top of. And then if you go build stuff on top of it, it still looks to an outside eye similar, because like you see all this detail that's always there, and then like little bits of detail get added in with what you want. And what I've always wanted was some way to strip out the stuff that's always there and like only see the thing that you've changed. so that like an empty site would be like nothing. And if you've built 3 content types and a theme and added like 20 nodes, like you would only see those 3 things, and not like all the dials and knobs and controls that we always see. And so I'm just,
Yeah, we have that. It's a basic install profile. Drupal has it too. We just decided in Backdrop to turn it off by default because most people don't want that. Like, if you install a site with nothing on it, people think your site does nothing. So it sort of is the wrong first impression. Whereas if you give them something that's a functional website, then it's an easier place for people to start. But for more advanced users, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people in the Drupal community like specifically choose to start with minimal. Is it called minimal?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have anything on it.
I don't think that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he was saying either. I think what he was, if you install with minimal, you can't, or if you install with the standard, you can't switch to minimal easily. What he was talking about was like some button to turn off all the other things without disabling them, just so you could see the things the change that you made.
What is it called?
No, that's not. I mean, if I inherit a site, basically, if someone says, hey, I've got this thing called Drupal, I don't know what it is, what's going on, like I go in and there's a certain thing that I go to the content types and I look and see what content types are there. Then I go look, poke around the fields and see what fields are in there. I look at the taxonomies, I look at the content. Like there's this bunch of stuff for me to determine kind of like what they've done. And you have to dig surprisingly far, and you have to know what the menus are called, and you have to know what you're looking for to find that. Whereas kind of what I'd like is to be able to just hit like a button, say print, like show me what they did. And they would show like only the things the user has changed and none of the stuff that was downloaded. Like if you haven't actually done any work on the site, it should just be a blank page. And if you've added
Like
5 things, there should be 5 things on the page. Like it should be just a list of
like
exactly
a
what
report.
A report, yeah.
Kind of a diff.
So this
file.
is interesting because I've been working on doing like estimates in Drupal 7 sites. And what I really want is this report, right? Because it gives me a list of all the stuff that I have to move from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. So it's interesting, like the concept of making that report sounds super appealing to me, because then if I had to like do an upgrade from, I don't know, Backdrop to something else, getting that report out is a lot of value. And we have the ability in Backdrop to determine whether the configurations for any of these things are in their default state or overridden. So we could even tell, like if the basic page content type has never had anything changed, we could put that on the report at the bottom being like, this was default, never changed. But if somebody had like added a field to it, we could add that too. So yeah, interesting. I like that. I like the idea of a report.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a report, but just sort of that idea of kind of packaging away the best example I can think of is like if you buy a car, right? Like there's things you have to know to run the car, where the how to turn it on and how to turn on the radio and stuff like that. But like there's also like a service manual that you open up the hood and you can change the oil and change the spark plugs and do all sorts of stuff, change the brake pads, and all those things are doable things. But I feel like we have all that like change the oil level things on the inside of the car in the passenger compartment where like people that don't know how to change the oil are nevertheless faced with that menu item.
Are you talking about a simplified administrative UI where only the basic things are shown, like an advanced sections of?
Part of it.
Like
I mean,
a configurable configuration UI.
Yeah, but I mean, part of it is not to strip it away now, because the problem with like beginner, like putting things in like beginner and expert stuff, is the beginner stuff ends up being useless. You end up not being able to actually do anything with it, and you don't really get to get anything done until you turn that off and wade through the stuff. So, but I'm kind of mixing two ideas here, so that might be getting confusing.
Is there anything like a contrib module that does that in V7, or does WordPress do that? Is there an example of seeing that in in the user interface so that we can get a better idea? Maybe.
Yes, I mean there are certainly things like, and I could dig up examples in that
Yeah.
direction.
So I guess it would be better if we had examples of those things.
Okay.
The second thing you were talking about, it sounded to me like we added the editor role, but I think what you would probably respond to that is the ability to switch between them. So like maybe the ability to be an editor, but to like by choice, not because you've been given that role, right? To say, put me in editor mode. Put me in editor mode where I don't see all the stuff I don't need, but I still have access to it if I want.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, roles lock you out of stuff, right?
Right.
Roles would be like you have the car and you need a key to get into the engine compartment. You can get to the engine compartment just by popping it, but most people choose that. I don't want to do that right now. and the thing is, the reason why I think it matters is that there are stuff that people do have to do, and they're hard to find because they're lost in these mountains of things you don't have to do. So it makes the findability of the stuff that's actually relevant difficult because you have to wander these things you don't know what they are,
Right.
and they're dangerous. You can totally fuck up your site if you hit the wrong thing.
Right.
So you want to be able to have like a safe place to go where you know what's going on and where you can look at all the things and make changes. I don't know. So
yeah,
but I haven't gotten into that because it can involve it involves us diverging substantially from Drupal, and we've been largely built on being backwards compatible with Drupal. So these are definitely kind of forward-looking things because once you go down that road, there's no going back. So
yeah.
I want to
It sounds like what
direction.
Tim said. Like a role switcher, something for users, so that they can disable permissions that have been granted to them temporarily, but they could switch them back on. It's like, I know that I have been granted editor and administrator role, but right now I just need every permission that the editor role gives me, not the administrator. And I just need a checkbox to enable that. Give me all the admin stuff thing.
Yeah.
I think most people would just have 2 accounts created and was log out and log back in.
Yes, that's how they solve it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if we can do something in Contrib, and then if it works, then bring it in core. I would like to point out, like in general, I would like us to focus on what Jen said, some killer features that would sort of like either bring us in parity with major features that D8 has and we lack, or that would make an impact for the announcement of 118. And I think that we have been doing a really great job at that. So we usually pick quite a few of them, not all of them may make it. And then at the end, maybe the last month, we work on some, low hanging fruit so that the release doesn't seem, poor, I would say. So I think that we should stick to that, like find some killer features, try to work on them. We have a couple of months ahead.
Oh.
And then if certain of these are blocking or because people don't have time to work on it, we don't manage to get them in by 118, then we can just start working on the low hanging fruits.
I really want to hear from more people, even if you don't have a new idea, which of the ideas you've heard seem like the most valuable. I really feel like there's some folks in like sometimes it's like, I'd like to work on this issue, but I'm not sure if anybody else cares about it. And if I hear 3 other people care about it, that makes me more motivated.
I think it would be great.
I'm super excited about config recipes. Is that actually plausible? That sounds magic to me. Like I'm just reading the description on it. How hard can we actually get that? Is that
Probably.
Features for backdrop.
Yeah.
like features that doesn't suck?
I have a proof of concept thing that's very, very crude that actually works, and I could show it to you sometime.
Huh.
Actually, I have a video about it. I'll send you a link.
Nice. Yeah, I hate reading a book. I always wait for the movie.
I think we might. I like that idea, but I think we might run into some of the same issues features did, such as like the it has a hard time when dealing with fields or when turning off features, that the stuff that the feature provided doesn't actually go away because it's in the database.
Well,
So-
features is really brittle. I mean, there were other problems with it, but the thing I always found is that you would run into endless situations where you couldn't enable it, and since you're relying on being able to add these things, and you had to get to like a really deep technical level to get past that. Like, it made it hard to recommend as being like a drop-in thing. Like features ended up being just a way to do, you know, config management to get,
Right.
and it didn't work that I ever saw for what it was originally supposed to do. I mean,
It has
because it was code, right? so like, if it didn't work 100%, you couldn't use it all. Like, you need some failable features. You need something where, you know, it can work partially, and you can be like, is that good enough? Do you want to just stick with what you got? Is that, and, you know, give the user an option to accept that.
Yeah, I think so. Hook 42 used it extensively. We put almost every single thing that could be put into features was put into features on all of our sites.
Except certain things like menu items.
Right. But there were certain things that features wouldn't do. And it typically had to do with if you wanted to rename something or remove something. And those we always had to write manual update hooks for. And I think the reason for that is just because when you rename something, it was going to rename a database table, and features just absolutely refused to do anything if it was going to touch your schema.
Right.
And I think we might run into the same problems where we're either going to be like, it's fine to change your schema, or and then we put up with the chance that we might mess up your code because your database tables or fields suddenly have different names, or we say, like, we will absolutely not import a config file that will change your schema.
Yeah, so I think that the major difference between the way features worked and what we envisioned for recipes is that features had versions, right? You needed to upgrade the feature that you had, whereas recipes started more. I haven't looked at the issue for quite a while, but it started as automating tasks, right? So it won't
wouldn't
get you
have
some.
a current status that you could like revert to or update to. It was like a starting point.
Yeah. So it was like, in order to get a blog, I need to install these modules and get these things done. So instead of manually wasting time doing that, which is pretty much just following documentation, right? Something like that. I'll have a script or a series or a thingy, whatever we call it, that helps me do all that. But once I do it, this doesn't have to be installed. This doesn't have to be part of the site anymore. Like, it automates the tasks that I routinely do, and I waste time doing it.
I wonder, Gregory, you saying that makes me think that this would be really excellent for demonstrating themes, you know, but there's a lot of sites that are like, I want my site to look like this. And in WordPress land, the theme also includes a lot of functionality. Yeah. And if you were like, I want to see everything that this theme can do, the theme could start becoming highly opinionated. Like, this is a theme for a very particular purpose, and it also comes with this configuration. But rather than having themes come with configuration, there's a recipe that happens to include the theme. So we can flip it around. I know that there's been some requests of having themes have configuration, and I'd be way more comfortable with this inverted approach where there's a recipe that includes the theme and also includes the content types. Seems like that would be great. Although kind of confusing compared to like WordPress, where the theme includes the functionality, but still could be cool.
I think I was actually one of the people, or I think I created that issue to let themes have config, And the big thing there was moving color module settings into config, because right now it's its own custom thing that is not
Yeah.
the same as any other thing. So yeah, I don't know if we actually want people to like be able to upload code effectively through their config files.
Mm.
Could be a mess.
Okay, so we are out of time. Have we made any progress?
I'm excited about a whole bunch of things. Is that progress?
It does seem to always be progress, honestly, getting excited again. Speaking of things that getting excited again, I'm just going to put it out there. The automatic updates, I still think is the thing that it's been mostly pending on review from my side. And I'm going through the issues that we have on automatic updates. And it's so crazy that all of them have been started and have a substantial amount of work on them. And then it's just like, and now it's like the final little hard part. And so, I'm going to put it out there that I'll try to bring that up again. Is like, let's move forward at least on some of these things. And I'm not sure I'm going to commit to like automatic updates will be in 118, but maybe some progress on it.
What are the big blockers for automatic updates?
Well, the meta issue is 2018. And we've got a number of things, digital signatures, making it so that, first of all, we have to sign packages and then we have to check the signatures. So it's kind of a two-part thing. I've got an issue for deprecating or removing authorized.php, which isn't really a blocker, but it's like a cleanup task that automatic updates and authorized.php are in conflict with each other conceptually. That authorized.php is like when you update a module, you would in theory be able to enter your FTP credentials to install the module as that user instead. But if it's automatic, then the web server can't ask for FTP credentials during an automatic update, unless you did something crazy where like the web server sent you an email says, hey, I need you to give me some credentials so that I can update myself. But then it's not really automatic anymore. Let's see. And then the automatic part, we have a big problem that it's not clear how to run update.php in an automated fashion. Like right now, that is something that has to be run through manually, and we need to figure out a way to make it so that did its thing automatically. So anyway, 2018 has all of the issues in it, though.
I was going to say this has been helpful to me in identifying some issues that I'm interested in and might want to advocate for. It hasn't. I'm not hearing like the consensus around like these 2 or 3 issues would be really great for us as a group to focus on or something. So.
I'm also not hearing like, I think Backdrop should prioritize new features over user experience improvements or vice versa, which is kind of what I was thinking people were going to be like leaning towards. It sounds like everybody still is okay with all the things, which is the problem that I was in when we started.
What was the answer you were hoping to get?
What was what?
What was the answer you were hoping to get?
I was just hoping to get any answer like new features are more important than usability improvements, or this kind of feature is more important than that kind of feature. Like maybe performance is more important than security, or like
why do these have to be explicit? Like,
well, just because I have 100 things I want to work on. It doesn't have to be forever. It just happens to be like, John, okay, you should work on X. Gregory, maybe you could just tell me that, and I don't know. Just authorize one person to tell me what to do, and then.
Yeah. So the issue that we have here is that let's go with this list, right? Because no one else seemed to have brought anything else up. All right. It seems to be like a dozen or maybe a few more than a dozen issues here, and it's like half a dozen of us. All right, and maybe another. So if each one of us picks to advocate for one of these issues, still we have more issues remaining in the wish list, or this. So yeah.
Well, this was a brainstorm list. Some of these issues probably maybe there is no consensus to do anyways. But
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
all ready to be moved forward. So, you know, a part of advocating for an issue too, for me, is figuring out one that I can get excited about, but also one that I understand and I have some, like, I want something that I can help, even if I can't solve it, I can help get it to the finish line in 2 or 3 months. Backup and migrate is one of those that, like, I'm not sure. I don't know I have no idea how big of a project that would be.
So with regards to, and this is because I remember that you were excited about telemetry and you were involved as an advocate there, Tim. Are the initiatives separate to what we're doing now, or?
Yes.
Yeah. So a person can be an advocate in one of these issues and still be an advocate for the initiative, right?
Sure.
That's where I was getting at. So you already are busy with the telemetry thing, trying to fix that, and you're trying to figure out for an issue as well, like a feature, right?
Yeah, I've already committed to working on telemetry, but I can also advocate for something else.
Yeah.
So these aren't exclusive. Yeah.
Look, from a marketing perspective, that meta about the Google's paid speed thing is a big win, like a marketing sort of like win. You know, just to say backdrop is will get you better rankings out of the box.
Yeah.
That sounds like
would be really good. I also think,
it's a
unfortunately,
selling point.
really
Yeah.
hard. Like there are a couple of things that already have sub issues that are getting a lot of pushback for various different reasons. So yeah, it's a meta. We would probably need to pick like one of the sub items and focus on that, and then another one in the next release and focus on that, and try and figure out how to get the biggest wins in first.
How about the Markdown module in core?
What?
Markdown in core,
Like
Markdown.
it.
changing it from an end user product to a developer product.
I mean,
I'd
like
it
a lot of sites let you edit your comments and things in Markdown. Like I think Reddit lets you do everything in Markdown.
Yeah, well, we have a module.
So,
And I would argue that Reddit is primarily focused on developers, even
Yeah.
though that's
Reddit-
not this market today, but I mean, that's where it started.
We do have an issue in core that talks about switching from using HTML and translatable strings to Markdown. But I think that sort of would go in the same thing here, where it's like, if we're gonna switch from HTML to Markdown in translatable strings, which that would be like a core, like support Markdown in core, a bigger picture issue too.
that might be a 2.x issue.
Yeah. Interesting.
So government agencies that are using the GovCMS platform, the content editors are being sort of like, I'll use the thing in quotes, forced to learn HTML because they want to do a little bit more with their content editing without having to go to their developer partner each time, which means more cost. So if we find solid evidence that for non-developer people that have never had anything to do with HTML, it's easier for them to understand and write in Markdown. Maybe that could be a drive for that issue, but from memory, that was one of the arguments in that issue that was filed. Is really Markdown easier, and for who is it? Like the target audience here should be content editors, and HTML is code. So is Markdown, but which one is easier? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's tough because it could also be that 5 years from now, maybe all editors are more familiar with Markdown than they are HTML. And
Exactly.
it could be different in Vector 2 land than it is today. I mean, I notice it's spreading all over the place. Like, you know, all of the tools that us developer use support it, like GitHub and Asana and whatever, it's leaking into non-developer tools too. And I wonder what will happen long-term with that.
Yeah.
I've also
I
noticed.
mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
intuitively, it just seems like if you look at Markdown, you know, at something, a Markdown formatted document, if you don't know that Markdown exists, that like turns it into a formatted thing, it looks just like how people dress up code. So like you don't even know. Whereas with HTML, there's no such thing. You see a page of HTML, you know that somebody didn't just happen to write that. So I would suspect that without being taught it, you could give somebody something written in Markdown and just tell them, edit this, and there's a good chance they'll get it right. I mean, they won't know how to add new features, but if you have something existed, you can edit it.
And the easy win there is that there's a plugin for CK editor already. It could just be a matter of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like a great kind of modern touch that we can add in there as an option. I mean, it doesn't have to be like enabled by default or anything, but
yeah.
Great
Yeah,
if you wouldn't have to hunt it down and install it separately.
Yeah.
Like
the argument there though is that if it's not enabled by default, is it something that 80% would use, and then why not a contrib module? That's what it's a fine line.
Yeah,
And as Jen said, there's already a contrib module. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I don't know, just an idea.
You could make it a featured module if I worked on the making modules featured option. I would make that easy.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, as I said, I think that we should focus on things that bring like the loudest, as in selling points that marketing people can be convinced to use, like in agencies. And then also one thing that should be a focus for the next few years until D7 is end of life is making it easier to upgrade. So anything that has to do with making it easier to upgrade from D7 should be prioritized, I think, because we only have so many years. After that, we can do whatever. We can go crazy because people at that point would not be migrating. They will have found a solution for their sites, for the D7 sites.
Okay, so if that's kind of what I was thinking too, but then that also brings up the question, like what kinds of issues are things that are most important to people who are upgrading from 7? Like is the like adding more backwards compatibility something that's important, or is like streamlining the upgrade process to like automate things, or like there's so many options of ways that we could try and make that better that we're not currently working on. And I don't know. And does this stuff need to go in core if we know that long-term people aren't going to be moving from 777, or should it be stuff that happens in like coder module or develop module, or I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah. So one thing that I keep, because I don't actually do any migrations, I keep bringing it up. I get an answer and then I forget it. Most people seem to be either using feeds to get their content over to the backdrop site. There's some people that are doing the upgrades, but do we have the option to just create a blank site, a blank backdrop site, and then point it with credentials to a database and have it pull things? Do we have that?
Yeah, but you don't actually create a blank backdrop site. You create a code base and then you point it at your 777 database, and then it just converts everything for you. And that's the recommended way to move an existing site. It's the same way 6 went to 777 or 555 went to 666, and it's built in. And it could be better.
But the way that it works now is people get a code base and they point it to an existing database, a D7 database, and it converts it. What I was talking about is blank site, fully installed, and point it to the database, and then say, yep, pull content, pull users, pull this, pull that, with checkboxes. Like,
but there's an issue I put in the queue. It's called upgrade UI module, similar to migrate UI in 888, where it essentially would be the same UI as you have in 888, and you would think it was working the way you're describing, but in reality, what it would do is take that freshly installed database you just made and throw it away and replace it with the 777 database. But at least it provides people a working user interface to get to that step.
Yeah.
My dad has been working on a port of the migrate and migrate UI modules.
Has he been working on this issue? I'll look at it.
I don't know.
I haven't been doing it. I didn't know that issue existed. I've just been porting the actual 777 modules over.
Oh. Here, I'm gonna drop this link in.
They're quite extensive modules.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
this
course,
is
yeah. I would
specific
expect.
based
Yeah, the
off
Drupal,
8 though, which might be different.
theoretically, the migrate module and the Drupal to Drupal migrate module, which I'm planning on porting and calling it Drupal to Backdrop migrate module, allow you to do basically a front end thing. You know, you click on, it's kind of like the Drupal 8 migrate UI thing. I
Yeah,
don't know
so-
how it works on the back end. I'd have to look at it. All the things I've ever done have been custom code though, so I don't know how well it'll work.
Yeah, this is
Part of the
specifically upgrade UI, not migrate UI, which I think is a different thing.
Okay.
But
Part
I
of the
put
reason-
the issue in there. You can take a look at it. So
part
it's
of the reason
probably
why I was recommending
Okay,
that is
so you're
that-
just
so
what is that?
we
Go
have
ahead.
the tugboat demo boxes, right? So from a dev agency, a digital agency perspective that wants to evaluate Backdrop, right? They wonder, oh, we have those 3-4 sites that we need to migrate. How well is it going to work? How, like, people keep saying, people in the Backdrop land keep saying, promising that it's going to be easy, but how easy is it going to be? And if we could get to a point where we tell them, spin up a demo site, point it to a database, and see how much it gets you to where you want to go, and then that should give you an idea. So that's a selling point. That's how I see it. That's why I sort of like I said that this is important to get it. Even if it was a contrib module, the tugboat demos allow you to install that contrib module, and then you can take them. We can have a guide on how to sort of like evaluate this. Just make it easier for them to evaluate and then finally do the actual upgrade.
All right, well, should we wrap up for today? I kind of agree we didn't get definitive things, but I think that's fine. I think that really for deciding what to work on, we should still follow the normal procedures, you know, milestone candidates and advocates. And this is really just kind of like brainstorming exercise.
Yep.
Is that okay with you, Jen? Okay.
that's not my issue. I'm advocating for.
What I would have liked is to sort of go around and hear what everybody, again, not making a decision, but just hear what everybody is excited about or what they think would be valuable. And there might be other ways of doing that asynchronously, either in Zulip or maybe I create an issue in the forum, which we've kind of already done, but the difference would be that I really go out and we like point people at this list of issues and we say, hey, pick the 1 or 2 that you really like and just tell us. It's not a commitment to do it. It's not, but we just want to know what everybody is excited or what they'd like to see.
Yeah, which is again a thing that Classic Press does better. Like they have this poll petition thing, which allows people to vote on the things that they want.
I'm not interested in binding votes, just like preference polls to inform us.
Yeah,
I think that's their petition site is kind of a preference poll. Like you get to vote on 3 things and whichever things have the most. And then when it's done, then you get to vote on something else again.
Right.
Yep.
Except that they actually decide what they're going to work on based on those polls, right? And to me, it's like we can't say that the thing that wins is what the thing we're going to work on because we don't know if anybody wants to work on it. But if we at least knew what people were interested in, it could influence us. That's all. I'm going to shut up.
Okay. Well. Ta-da.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
well, thank you everybody for joining the meeting. As always, thank you everybody out there that watches these things. And yeah, I'll see you guys maybe in a forum post, maybe on Zulip. And yeah, and as always on GitHub. So yeah, and next week.
Everybody wave.
See ya.
Bye. I'm waiting.
Bye.